gospel. Look at verse 17. So then, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. Faith comes by hearing the word of God. So spending time in the word, studying the word, meditating upon the word, hiding the word in your heart will increase your faith in God, because faith comes by hearing the word of God. But again, here in the context, it's talking about the gospel message. Faith comes by hearing the gospel message about the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. A person has to hear the gospel to believe Jesus Christ can save them. So faith comes by hearing the gospel message about Jesus Christ. But again, some hear it and they don't believe. Some hear it and don't put their faith in Jesus Christ. And that's the case with Israel. Again, that's the context of these chapters. The unbelief of Israel. And at this point, Paul anticipates that some of the readers might ask two questions about the unbelief of Israel. The first question will be, maybe Israel didn't hear about Jesus Christ. And that's why they don't believe. They haven't heard the gospel of Jesus Christ. And if they hear the gospel, then they'll believe. So that's going to be the first question Paul addresses. Then next, Paul anticipates that some might say, well, maybe Israel heard about Jesus, but they didn't understand what they heard. And that's why they don't believe. They just lack understanding. And if they understood, they would believe and embrace Jesus as their Messiah. So those are the two questions he's going to address next, beginning in verse 18. He says in verse 18, but I say, have they not heard? Speaking of Israel, yes, indeed, they've heard. Their sound has gone out to all the earth, and their words to the ends of the world. Yes, indeed, Israel heard about Jesus Christ. Yes, Israel heard about his death and resurrection. Jesus was an Israelite. Jesus was born and lived his entire life in Israel. Jesus preached every sermon and miracle in Israel. And Mark chapter 1, it says that Jesus went to every synagogue in the Galilee and preached and taught in every synagogue. So to put that in today's terminology, that would be like Jesus going to every church in town or every church in our region and preaching in every church. Jesus taught in all the Jewish synagogues in Galilee. And most importantly, Jesus was crucified and resurrected in Jerusalem. He ascended back to heaven from the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem. The church was birthed in Jerusalem. The early disciples, the book of Acts tells us, they filled Jerusalem with their doctrine, with their teachings about Jesus, about his death and resurrection. And the church spread from Jerusalem into Judea, the area surrounding Jerusalem. And then it spread from Judea into Samaria, and then it spread from there to the ends of the earth through the Apostle Paul. In Acts chapter 24, when Paul is on trial, he is accused of stirring up riots among the Jews all over the world, it says. He stirred up riots among the Jews all over the world. So yes, Israel heard about Jesus. It's not a matter of them hearing the gospel. They heard. Israel heard about Jesus more than anyone else. They were eyewitnesses to the death and resurrection. They were eyewitnesses to his entire ministry. They could go to the empty tomb in Jerusalem and see that he wasn't there, that he was risen from the dead. So their unbelief was not because they had not heard about Jesus. They heard and rejected him. So now you have the second question that Paul anticipates in verse 19. But I say, did Israel not know? Did Israel not know? And here the idea is, did they not understand what they heard? Maybe that's the case. But I say, did Israel not know? Did they not understand? First, Moses says, I will provoke you to jealousy by those who are not a nation. I will move you to anger by a foolish nation. He's speaking of the Gentiles. But Isaiah is very bold and says, I was found by those who did not seek me. I was manifest to those who did not ask for me. Paul anticipates that some might say, well, maybe Israel didn't understand what they heard about Jesus Christ. Maybe they didn't understand the meaning and significance of his death and resurrection. Maybe they just really didn't understand the gospel. And if the gospel was more clearly explained to the Israelites, then they would believe. Then they would believe in Jesus Christ. And they just need the gospel explained further to them. And you probably know people. You probably have friends or coworkers that you've shared the gospel with, and you in your mind are thinking, well, maybe I need to make it clearer for them so that they can really understand. And you probably feel, compelled, like, I hear this message, I'm going to share this message with them. If they heard this message, then they'll get it. Or I'm going to share this book, I'm going to give this book to them. If they read this book, then they'll understand why they need to put their trust in Jesus Christ. Or I'm going to share this video that I saw on YouTube where this guy's talking about the gospel, and I'm going to share that with them because if they watch this, then they'll understand. Then they'll get it. Just they don't have enough understanding yet. I'm going to help them understand by sharing this with them. And I want you to see Paul's response here. It's so rich what he says. Again, in verse 19, he says, I will provoke you to jealousy by those who are not a nation. I will move you to anger by a foolish nation. He's speaking of Gentiles here, non-Jews. The Gentiles are those who are not a nation, as he says here. They're not a single group like Israel, and the Gentiles are a foolish nation. And you might think, well, I'm a Gentile. I find that offensive to call me a foolish nation.